and I will begin with a few introductory comments. I am Bonnie Duffy. I am the chair for the county side, and Sharon Shantos is the chairman for the city side. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones are turned off. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.org site for viewing by the general public. The two planning commissions work together on land use and zoning matters within the rural areas surrounding the city. The area is displayed on the screen. When this joint hearing is completed, the joint Sioux Falls and County Planning Commissions will adjourn, and then we'll have another regular business meeting to consider items beyond the joint zoning jurisdiction with Sioux Falls. Any final action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, April 29th at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission and City Council for a joint hearing on Tuesday, May 21st, 2019, at or after 5 p.m. That meeting is held in Carnegie Town Hall at 235 West 10th Street. Action taken on the final development plan will be final tonight. First on our agenda is public input. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from March 25th are included in the consent agenda. Does any Planning Commission member wish to have an item removed for discussion? Next.
You're asking for on the consent agenda?
Yes.
I'd like to move item number 2 to the regular agenda, please.
Next, I will read each item on the consent agenda, and if there's any issues or comments from the staff or the audience, and they'd like to be heard on the item, please raise your hand. The item will be moved to the regular agenda, which has just happened, and that will allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Any other items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commissions with the conditions recommended by the staff. The first item on the consent agenda is the approval of the minutes of March 25th, 2019. Item number 2 has already been moved to the regular agenda. Item number 3 is a final development plan, 19-02. Petitioner is Tyler Childress. He is also the property owner. This is located approximately 1.5 miles north of Sioux Falls. At this time, I will entertain a motion for item number 1 and item number 3.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is made and seconded to approve item number 1 and number 3. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
May I have a motion to approve item number 1 and number 3 on the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, a motion to approve the amended consent agenda. Item number 1 and 3.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to the regular agenda. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 19-18 to allow an agricultural-related operation involving the handling and storage of farm products and to exceed 2,400 square feet of total accessory building area. Requested is 3,382 square feet on the property legally described as Lot 1, Block 1, Iverson Crossing 2nd Edition, South Half, Southeast Quarter, Section 21, Township 101 North, Range 48 West. petitioner is Brent Driscoll. His location is 48068 Iverson Crossing Road. That is located about 2 miles east of Sioux Falls. Kevin?
Evening. Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. As you just heard, this is a conditional use permit number 1918 for an agricultural related operation. The proposed operation is to go on a 1.16 acre parcel located on the north side of the Iverson Crossing subdivision. In addition to the ag operation, the conditional use permit will allow the property to have a total accessory building area greater than 2,400 square feet. The proposed operation would have the new building be 30 feet by 85 feet, and that would be in addition to an existing building on the property for a total square foot accessory building area of 3,382 square feet. I'll begin by noting with that building, there's the building location, the 30 feet by 85 feet, located behind the existing accessory building. And the accessory buildings in the area, in the immediate Iverson Crossing area, there isn't a whole lot of large buildings. Many of them are 1,200 square feet or less, kind of related to our previous ordinance prior to changes with that, where 1,200 square feet was greater than that required a conditional use permit. As you see, there's a couple of properties highlighted on the right of this map, on the east side, east of the highway, that do have more accessory buildings area. And I would also note that the accessory building area would not exceed 30% of the rear yard of the property. As far as the ag-related operation, the petitioner has submitted a brief narrative for the project, which has been provided to the Planning Commission. As part of the narrative, the petitioner has explained that the business will be limited to the hours of 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 p.m. For a regular workday kind of business, and that there will be no customer traffic to the site. All business will be taking place off-site other than office work and warehousing. As part of the conditional use permit process review, the Planning Commission should review several criteria that I'll present to you here next. Criteria 1, that the impact of the proposed use on adjacent properties shall be a major consideration. The proposed use should be generally compatible with adjacent properties and other properties in the district. This proposed operation is located on the north edge of a large residential subdivision. The request may set some precedents for larger buildings in the area. As I noted, there isn't many in the residential area. For typical requests coming forward. The plan will not include customers on the site, and traffic will be limited to those working on the site and deliveries. So that'll be similar to what is traffic may be on the property is now. Many of the potential issues of the proposal can be mitigated with proper conditions. Number B, measures shall be taken to ensure that proposed use does not alter the general character of the area or neighborhood. Visually, the biggest impact will be the building. I think I might have a picture of the building. There's the proposed building pictures. But the location of the building being further behind the existing accessory building should help alleviate some of the view of it. And then the building facade elements and the color in the brick should mix the building to similar to the house and the existing accessory building. Number C, the effects of noise, odor, traffic, air and water pollution and other negative factors shall be eliminated or controlled through the use of screening, setbacks, and orientation. The proposed agricultural related operation has some potential for negative impacts. Staff feels that many of these negative factors can be largely mitigated with conditions. Noise and odor would not likely be some of these negative impacts with the warehousing and office use. Staff would note that with ag products, many ag-related operations carry chemicals, and that was noted in the staff report that chemicals is not an appropriate place to warehouse chemicals in a neighborhood like this. So staff suggests that there should be an appropriate condition to limit or completely eliminate chemical storage on the property. Deliveries should be of typical like pickups and light duty vehicles or delivery trucks. And staff would note that the delivery should be, conditions can be placed on it for that as well. Number D, the proposed use shall not adversely affect the public. Staff feels that with the recommended conditions that I'll read off in a little bit, that the proposed larger building agricultural related operation does not adversely affect the public. And then the health, safety, and general welfare of the public in the comprehensive plan should be considered as part of the request. This site is located within the transition area of the comprehensive plan and a single-family residential area of the Red Rock Corridor plan. In the transition area, agricultural production is typically considered that it can continue, but not have major expansions in order to prepare for the eventual urban development of the land. Land uses in the area should generally be compatible with land uses typically found on the edges of the city. Staff finds that, oh, that's right. The city planning staff has reviewed this and provided comments that was provided to the planning commission, and the city planning staff also has recommended approval for the permit. Staff has reviewed this, and staff recommends approval with the following conditions. 1, the building location driveway shall adhere to the submitted site plan. 2, the total area of all accessory buildings may not exceed 3,382 square feet. 3, no outside storage of commercial equipment and materials shall be allowed at any time. 4, deliveries into and out of the site shall take place between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. 5, no delivery vehicles to or from the agricultural related operation shall exceed a gross combined weight rating of 26,000 pounds. 6, customers shall be limited to an average of 4 customers per day. 7, no storage or sale of hazardous and regulated chemicals shall be allowed. 8, the total number of employees of the business shall not exceed 3. 1 of the 3 employees must reside at the residence of the property. And number 9, the planning staff and zoning department reserves the right to enter and inspect the ag-related operation at any time after proper notice to the owner to ensure the property is in full compliance with the conditional use permit conditions of approval and the Minnehaha County zoning ordinance. I would remind you that you can change these conditions as you see fit, as you hear testimony tonight, and if anything will help in either direction with the permit. So some site photos. This is a photo of the driveway and the existing garage. It's kind of a narrow driveway, as you can see there. This is looking down the tree grove towards the back, and you'll see that there's kind of a radio tower there. And it'll be kind of back behind the shed, and behind that radio tower where the shed will be, the proposed shed. So this is looking down where the new driveway will be, and you'll see that the existing accessory building is quite a bit lower than the house, and again, the driveway is pretty narrow. So then this is looking to the west from the edge of the driveway. You'll see a few more single-family dwellings down the west in the paved road. And then this is looking to the east, where the development's primarily further to the south or the right in this photo, but you'll see the other residences along this road. And then I do have a picture at the entrance of this road from the Highway 11. There is a stretch of this that is gravel still, and that was part of the concern with not having large equipment coming in and out of the property, is to maintain the integrity of the gravel road. And that's all I have for photos, so at this, I will bring it back to the site plan, I think, and ask for any questions.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Would you explain the nature of this conditional use permit? It appears that the permit is being applied to allow an agricultural-related operation as well as an accessory building in excess of the standard formula for the size of the property.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, when we've dealt with the accessory building situation, the conditional use required that there be no commercial activity in the accessory building. So this seems to be kind of in conflict with that approach that has been taken.
Sure. Excuse me. And so, one of the things that staff reviewed and kind of coming up to this conditional use permit is the home occupation. And that's a different section of the ordinance. The home occupation is typically allowed in, say, residential areas and residential zoned areas. This area is still zoned for agriculture, and agriculture, I should then back up to the home occupation again. Home occupations are not allowed in accessory buildings in the ordinance at all. And again, that's primarily for the residential zone properties. When you get into ag zone properties, we have allowed agricultural related operations, which is like, it kind of explains that it's for these like seed businesses or usually it's related to some sort of a product that's being sold in and out of the property is what the ag operation typically deals with. So, yeah, I guess it's that kind of nuance of the ag zoning and the ag property.
But the zoning says recreational conservation.
It does. It is zoned A1 agriculture. I will clarify that. Recreational Conservation District is near there, and that must have gotten crossed into that. And that's a similar district as the agriculture, but it's for like floodplain type development. And this is not in the floodplain.
Any other questions for Kevin? Thank you. We may have you come back up
Yep.
at some point. Is the petitioner here? Will you please come forward and state your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name is Brent Driscoll. I'm a resident of the listed property and the applicant. Tonight I have support from my father, Bill Driscoll, my two sons, Chase and Mac, and then Greg Mum, who is actually in the picture here, my neighbor just to the west of me, and he's in support of this request. I've been working with Kevin to make sure that I follow all the rules and regulations put forward by the ordinances, and to make sure that I present transparency in the request. Some of the things that I just want to hit on is there will be no customers to this. Just to give you a little background, the intent of it is we have a farming operation that the family are owners, operators of, okay? And that is based in Minnesota, okay? The reason that we're looking to utilize this building is because 4 of the 6 individuals that are members of the LLC for Driscoll Farm or Land and Equipment reside in proximity to this area. So it's convenient for us to be able to do that. So what we're looking to do is have office space for administrative needs that would associate with farming, and then also some business coordination of activities that would be related to that also. The warehouse section would be utilized for things that are not chemical based. An example would be if I needed to pick up something in Sioux Falls for the farm location, which is from Sioux Falls would be 70 plus miles away. I might not be going down there right away, so I might need to bring it back and put it there. It could be anything from light bulbs to, just miscellaneous stuff that's associated, but it's not going to be chemicals, it's not going to be seed totes, 1,500-pound seed totes and things like that. It's just going to be miscellaneous things that would be able to be in that storage area. In addition to that, there will be no, I'm just going to hit on a few key elements. No noticeable increase of traffic. The building will match all the surrounding buildings, down to the brick, stone, paint color, siding, everything. It'll be an identical match. We're going above and beyond so that we don't inconvenience the neighborhood to make that happen. We're not going to put up a building that doesn't look appropriate for the area. So that was a key for us. We also are not, through the production or building of the structure, going to change the watershed path in any way. I mentioned about the owners managers. There are other structures that are within a quarter of a mile that was also mentioned that have larger buildings on them. And I do want to mention, even though we are not going to need the requirement to have any vehicles or trucks that exceed a certain weight limit, and I want to express that it's not going to be that case. It's going to be pickup trucks, it's going to be cars, and it's going to be only the people that would actually be in the building. And the number of employees is going to be very small, as specified in the limitations. I do want to point out that to the east of my property line, you can see to the right of the LP tank in that red line, there is an access road that goes back to the north for a farmer. That farmer utilizes that road for hauling of grain with semi-trucks that can be up to and possibly exceed 80,000 pounds. It also is utilized for combines and other farm machinery that pass through that area. So the nice thing about what we're doing is we're not going to have any tractors. We're not going to have any farm machinery. It's just going to be an administrative building that does some business that supports the home base in Minnesota.
Any other questions? The applicant?
I got one.
Adam?
It's talk about seed, are you selling seed? Or
No,
you
we are
just-
not a seed dealer.
Okay.
Nope.
So
Nope.
what was that about then, I guess, in our
If-
narrative in there then?
So there could be a situation where at the, I just threw stuff out when I was talking to Kevin. You know, there could be a possibility that, and I don't know how many of you are farmers, but you ordered seed in bulk and you could get to the end of the year and you might be a couple 50-pound bags short, right? Which is, as you guys know, can be a miserable thing, right? So let's say from the seed dealer, I have to pick up 2 50-pound bags. Well, instead of driving it all the way to the farm, maybe I'm not going down there right away, that would go on a shelf temporarily. It's going to be so limited in what we're going to do. Now, some of the things that the business is involved in, could have that same temporary situation. So these are the things that Driscoll Land Equipment is involved in: land management, excavation, grain storage, rental management, crop farming, custom building of products, wind tower planning, grain marketing, electrical component lighting replacement, repair and distribution, agriculture modernization through technology. Keep in mind that all distribution, all machinery, all of that is at home base. The stuff that will be handled is stuff that will be over the internet, over the phone. It will not require a customer to come to the building ever. I could put in there that we will agree to have 0 customers ever, because there is no need for it whatsoever.
Any other questions?
Just one more. How big a warehouse then were you thinking? How big office space? How big a
The
warehouse?
office space will be, so what we're looking at doing is we'll have office space, we'll have a utility, there'll be a bathroom in there, and then there'll be a network room. We believe in automation and technology for farming. So I have one of my sons is a programmer, the other one is a network engineer. So they obviously want to inject that. With farming being as difficult as it is any automation and, reducing costs that you can do helps you survive some years. And so we have embraced that and progressed with that. So that's one of the things that will be in the building is the office, the network room, the utility where, your HVAC and stuff will be. There'll be a bathroom, and then about 35 to 40% of it will be warehouse. Now, keep in mind, being that it'll be on my property, the other building that I have like a wood shop hobby, right? That's getting full. So there might be a lawnmower that I might want to put in that area, right? So I'm trying to think ahead. You hate to build a building and then you come back and go, man, I wish I just would have put 10 more feet on that or something, right? And so, I'm trying to think ahead of what we would need to utilize that for and what would be a good proposal for it.
Madam Chair,
Jeff?
Mr. Driscoll, some have written us on this issue and suggested that there's already all kinds of activity going on with numerous cars and vehicles coming and going, and wonder what's going on now that might escalate as, once you get this other facility going.
Right, so I currently have a daughter that lives at home, okay? I have a son that lives with me, and then I have another son that's in the area. So those would be the vehicles, and they might be talking about a couple friends that come over at times. Other than that, there's no other traffic. I'm not quite sure what they're referring to. Now, over the years, I have done improvements to the property, so the secondary building there wasn't put up in the first year. It was put up the year after. So I did have to bring down a skid loader to remove some dirt and things like that, but it was just improvements to the lot as it existed for, contouring of it and things like that. But other than that, there has been no additional traffic. I'm not quite sure where that comes from, because maybe they're confusing it with our neighbor has a lot of pool parties, and sometimes that can draw a lot of vehicles, so maybe they associate that because that's close proximity.
Madam Chair, have you reached out to your neighbors to talk to them about this project
I have.
in advance of this?
I have. I've talked to 3 of the neighbors. I know that a couple neighbors have actually went around and talked to everybody but me. That was a little bit unfortunate because I could have provided a lot of clarity, and I think there was a lot of confusion and worry because when you mention agricultural, it can go pretty much any way, right? It can get pretty scary at times what's proposed, but in this case, it's not. There's nothing threatening about it. But I did talk to the neighbor to the west. I talked to the property owner to the north, and then I talked to an individual to the east that was not the homeowner, but was staying at that residence, and to provide clarification because they came and asked me about it. I did not go to all 15 individuals, though.
Thank you.
And in hindsight, I wish I would have now, because I could have provided a lot of clarity and maybe relieved a lot of concerns. Yep.
Any other questions? City
Questions
side?
on the city side?
The only one question I got is, if you're open 8 to 5, why are we going 7:30 to 7? I was looking at your application and it says 8 to 5, and then we got a condition of 7:30 to 7. I can see the 7:30.
I wouldn't need till 7 at
I
all.
was just wondering if
Yep.
there was
Yep.
something in there as to reason why.
Yep.
Okay.
And I offer up to the panel that any suggestions that you want to introduce that, you would feel more comfortable with, I'd love to hear your opinion based off of your experience.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, say
Doug?
Brent.
Yeah.
Are you going to have any signage out in front?
No signage whatsoever.
Okay.
Thank you. We may call you back.
Okay, thank you.
Wish to address this item? Please step forward one at a time. State your name and address.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, I think I'd rather talk about the bouncy pillow That sounds more exciting. My name is Marlon Shenaha, and my wife, 2 sons, and our golden retriever, Bo, live right across the street from the property we're discussing at 48061 Iverson Crossing Road. First of all, thank you for your forbearance in hearing my comments this evening regarding my neighbor and the friends, the Driscolls' desire to construct and operate a commercial business operation in our residential neighborhood. Although I don't have a problem with anyone constructing a shed or a garage or anything like that that meets the county's zoning requirements and number of square feet, I'd always take issue, or I would always take issue with anyone, whether it be the Driscolls or anyone else, attempting to operate a commercial business in our family-friendly residential neighborhood. I'd like to impart to you a few of my concerns regarding the Driscolls' request for a conditional use permit. First of all, this is a nice residential neighborhood with no sidewalks, where children and families walk, ride their bikes, and enjoy the streets of our development. We really do live on those streets with our families as everybody walks down to the recreational areas. This permit would put those children and families at great risk. The location of this commercial business enterprise is on a dead-end street, which will further exacerbate the existing problem of customers driving trucks and trailers, having to attempt to turn around. Right now, there's nowhere to turn around. As you saw in the pictures, the road is very narrow. And when they do turn around, it ends up being in our lawns or through our driveways. This will further be exacerbated when these same customers and employees park in the street. Finally, the roads in this residential neighborhood are narrow, difficult to navigate on a good day by people who live in the neighborhood and understand the fact that many children live and play on or near the roadway. Mr. Driscoll's proposed agricultural business operation will significantly further these risks on a daily basis with employees, whether he has customers or not, or other transient vehicles attempting to pass through our neighborhood. That is our approach. Mine is maintaining the sanctity of our neighborhood there with our children and our quality of life. Again, I've enjoyed our relationship with my neighbor, the Driscolls, and mean them no ill will. But again, I would prefer not to have a commercial enterprise operating across the street from my home. I thank you for listening to my comments and concerns, and I appreciate and thank you for your work, service, and commitment to the citizens of Minnehaha County. Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Karen Whitaker. I live at 48086 Iverson Crossing Road, just 3 houses down from the Driscolls. I feel he has not been transparent about this because we heard about it, I believe, last Thursday. We heard that this was happening. Already, we had noticed cars parked down the road at 7:30 in the morning when I leave for work. There's already cars parked down there. And it's not the Minnehaha boys having a pool party because it's 7:30 in the morning during blizzards and snowstorms, etc. Marlon. So I'm sure it's not the neighborhood kids having parties. It's their employees parking in the street. And I personally, when I have family come to visit, they pull into my driveway, not on the road. So I'm thinking it has to be his employees. Anyway, also, that is also increasing the traffic down our road. Our gravel road is not that great of a gravel road to begin with, and it has become increasingly worse in the last year. A lot of potholes and everything. We have a lot of kids in the neighborhood that have all been friends for years. They, in the summertime and all the time, they're always running around to each other's houses and stuff and riding bicycles up and down the road. They're playing basketball in each other's driveways, and basketballs go out in the road, and the increased dualies with trailers and this kind of thing that are going to be coming down our road. Possibly someday semis, they don't belong on our road. It's a nice little community that this will just not be good for. And I feel like he's comparing the building that he wants to build to the Odie's farms that have been there for 100 years. This is not something to compare. He's wanting a business in our housing development. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for listening to me.
My name is Leonard Bauma, and the reason I'm up here is we own the lot right to the east of the proposed the planning here. And I think that it would not do me much good. It would be pretty tough to sell that, and there's a business place. Personally, we try to keep that lot up, looking up very nice during the summer months when the grass is growing and stuff, because we realize it's a nice residential area. Why all of a sudden do we need to change this to commercial? There's enough places close by that he could put another office with very few miles. The little town of Rowena right there. He could go right back to the east side. Eggy's transmission shop is there. A lot of those small businesses are right there. And anyway, also the amount of traffic that's going to be on that road, very true. I mean, this is, like she said, a car can hardly go through there. The last bit of with the freezing weather and the way the moisture came up out of the ground, that road was so soft, you could hardly get in there. So I don't really have a whole lot more except that, yes, I agree with that. As far as the children, I come into that area. I know that area very good, so I drive the 15 miles an hour or less. And watch out for the kids, because they can come running out behind the cars, behind the places there. Like you said, they use the road for their keeping occupied. So I don't understand why you want to take a nice residential area and turn it commercial. There's not enough commercialism nowadays, and I don't deny any kind of business that way. But I think there's a better place than trying to plant that into a neighborhood. I don't think that's much consideration on his part for the neighborhood. I think that's about all I have to say, and I thank you for listening to my small amounts, but I am concerned as far as my property there, the valuation of that, because it's not going to look good to have a big commercial building sitting very close by. So that's about all. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishes to address this item?
Oh, go ahead. Okay. Hi. My name is Tammy Hazlett, and my husband Jeff and I own the property at the dead end. There's a bridge and the river at the dead end, and we're that house.
Could you please state your address?
Yes, 48054 Iverson Crossing Road. And we also own the property next to that on the same side of the road as the Driscolls. It's a rental property, and that address is 48064 Iverson Crossing. And we also own the land north of the Driscoll property, and all of those homes there, as well as building eligibilities to the north. And it's off the map there, but there's two sections called Plat A, Tract A and Tract B, and we also own those. We also, me and the Driscoll family, no ill will, but we are here as concerned citizens about the proposal. Just to give you a little bit of background, we used to own the two lots, the Driscoll lot and the lot to the left on that map. In 2013, we worked with the Harlemi who owned the now rental house, and we basically did a flip where he purchased the two lots from us, and we took control of the rental house. But then in condition, we also we worked with the owner of the land that is now Tract A and Tract B that we purchased. And we worked with the commission at that time we had it all surveyed, and we wanted a road to be able to access from Iverson Crossing Road to that building site, those building eligibilities. And that's originally why you see River Crossing Road right there. We don't own that strip of it. That is owned by the person who owns that field. But we have an easement to get to the rest of, we had fully intended for that all to be a road and worked with how many feet we needed to have and purchased that strip according to right-of-ways on both the right and the left side and enough space for a road. Well, let me look at my notes here. Mr. Driscoll is wanting to put that building 3 feet from our property line. So when that's developed, we would see the backside of that commercial building every time we would be driving home in and out of the neighborhood. There are covenants for the Iverson Crossing neighborhood that state that it must be 40 feet, a building must be 40 feet from the road and at least 15 feet from the property line. We believe this new building project doesn't live to that, and we believe that the building will be too close to our road, and not to mention we'll be seeing, again, the backside of that property every time. The other concerns we have is our drinking water. This property is uphill from us, and it slopes down towards the rental property and our home. When this was all developed, we have significant problems with runoff that comes downhill. So right now, our rental property, the white square there that you see, is often full of water on that garage pad, and it has times also leached into the garage itself and made the inside of the house wet. There's inadequate drainage for the current development up there, and adding more concrete in another building will just increase that problem. Not to mention, I know that the proposal, they have not asked for permission for chemicals. However, that is a part of their business, and who's going to regulate that? You know, they will have deliveries. They will have that as a part of their business, and you know, we're just going to open up the door. What kind of precedence does that set for the future? And we are very concerned about the runoff onto our water table. That is our drinking water that we drink from. We don't utilize the rural water system at our home. So very concerned about health right there. And I want to be clear, I am a farmer's daughter. I own farmland. My family owns farmland. We do farm. And by no means are we anti-ag. We support that in every way. But this is a residential area. It is single-family homes. It is a place where children play. It's a place where they feel safe. It is a place where we can enjoy a quiet life. And having that extra traffic is burden to our stressed road, which is always got potholes and washboard because the traffic keeps increasing, and this will just increase that as well. I think I've addressed everything. Do you have any questions for me?
Madam Chair, I got a couple.
Doug?
Okay, you are worried about the water runoff now. There's not going to be any more runoff. Water comes down. It doesn't matter the area it comes from. It's there. So that will not change at all.
We've noticed a big increase in the standing water and the running water since these lots were developed. In the water that comes down and sits, runs downhill, and that sits in our rental area.
Was there any way you could change that on your rental property so it drains away from there faster?
That is not something that we are actually talking with Harlemy to see if they can come back and correct that, but
Okay.
I'm not here to ask.
My next
have
question
you
is,
answer that.
on those two tracks, A and B,
Mhm.
are they presently in the floodplain?
No, they're up on a bluff. They're not in the floodplain.
Okay.
there at the edge of the higher area. Right below there is the floodplain.
Okay, and my final question for you. When you go to your property, do you use the Iverson Crossing Road or do you use Tucker Drive? Be honest.
It depends on the day. If it's really, that road is not well maintained, so I would say half the time I use one or the other, depending on how, the conditions of that road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for her?
Any questions from the city side? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Ken Icorn. I live at 26604 Kelly Circle. I live on the corner right across the road on the gravel. I applied for a conditional use permit a few years ago. I wanted to build, Iverson Crossing does not have a stipulation on the size of the building. And I wanted to build, it was like 1,300 and some square feet. And I brought it to the planning and zoning, and they were nice enough to bring my conditional use permit to the county commissioners. And so it would have been like 1,350 feet roughly. And it was closed down, or they wouldn't permit it because they said that 1,200 square feet was kind of the county's size that they wanted to stay with. They did aerial views of the whole area across the road, basically a map just like that into the east. And they said that larger than 1,200 square feet did not fit in, did not look right in that area. And I think other people, my neighbor right west of there, he also has 1,200 square feet. So to their point, they're absolutely right. That's the reason there's not buildings bigger than 1,200 square feet in our area, because the commissioners did not allow it.
Anyone else wish to address this item?
Hi, my name is Christy Holm. I'm a resident in Iverson Crossing. I moved in 2001, one of the original residents in that neighborhood. I just wanted to speak, I guess, because I'm frankly a little perplexed by what we hear today. Starting with, when we review the staff report, and I don't know if two different stories were told, but what I hear today is not what I'm reading in the staff report. Starting with the current zoning, as was pointed out, the zoning on the information we were provided that we were able to review coming today indicated that this was zoned recreational conservation. Now we're told it's agriculture. As I review the report and the minutes coming in, there's even discussion of a hay grinding business on the property. I haven't heard anything about that. I don't know if that's an error or if that's something going on in this property. But it's listed as number 9 in the recommendations for the conditions for approval. It seems that in the staff report, and I don't know if this is what was communicated by Mr. Driscoll to staff or if there was a complete misunderstanding, but according to this staff report, we are talking about customers coming in and out every day. We are talking about trucks coming in and out every day. We're talking about seed being maintained for sale as a commercial business on this property. We heard Mr. Driscoll then say today he's just looking for somewhere to store some extra light bulbs that'll get transported to Minnesota. If that's the case, he already has an 800 square foot garage on his property in addition to his home that could certainly handle those light bulbs. There seems to be a disconnect here, and that's concerning to me as a homeowner. Again, this is a residential neighborhood, and what I'm hearing communicated does not match up with the staff report. I don't know where the miscommunication rests, but I would be very concerned hearing you approve a conditional use permit given the inconsistent information that we've heard here today. With all due respect from the information we've been provided, this is not an ag operation. This is a commercial business. That's what's going in there, no matter how you phrase it, that's what's being talked about. It's relocating the business from Minnesota into our residential neighborhood. Mr. Driscoll indicated that in his statements to the commission. Again, I've lived in this neighborhood now almost 18 years. The beauty of our neighborhood, and I take it very personally, the beauty of our neighborhood is the community. As you've heard people say, our kids play in the street. We don't have sidewalks. Our kids running back and forth between their yards. I've watched this for the last 18 years. I sat outside yesterday on the beautiful day for Easter. I watched Easter egg hunts taking place around the neighborhood. I saw kids biking. I saw them running up and down the road, playing with their friends, families on walks, pushing strollers. This all occurs in our streets. That's the neighborhood that we live in. I'm very concerned about the safety of our children. Again, I've seen it for years. If these trucks are coming in and out of our neighborhood, they don't know where the pets are, they don't know where the kids are. They're gonna be coming in and out. If you try to put a limit on them, you can only drive the gravel road, you can't take the paved road. Who's monitoring that? There's not going to be anybody around to see what's going on and how that's being used. We're gonna have increased traffic, road maintenance. As you've heard, our roads are already quite troublesome. If you add this, who's going to pay for all the road repairs that are going to be needed by the increased traffic? Timing of the day, this business, nobody's mentioned yet school buses coming in and out of our neighborhood. They typically come about 7:30 in the morning. That's when the bus picks our kids up who are out on the street waiting for the bus. This is a very concerning precedent. If you allow this for one resident in this neighborhood, we have 40 or 50 houses in our neighborhood. Is this just going to be a path that we go down now where we're suddenly turning our residential neighborhood into a commercial business? That's not what we purchased. That's not, with all due respect, what Mr. Driscoll bought into when he bought his house in this neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood, and we would like to keep it that way. It should not be this complicated. Again, this is residential, not commercial property, and it should stay that way. Thank you for your consideration. Any questions? Sorry.
Not this time.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address this? Please state your name and address for the record.
Bob Caswell, 48095 Portage Street. I'm on the blacktop. You'll have to scroll that down a little ways to get to me. I got a couple of things to say. If it's residential, it's residential, okay? We all kind of know what's going to start happening here. In my mind, one thing is going to lead to the next. Then we're going to have straight trucks coming in here. They're not going to know the road. The reason that you can't take the gravel is because there's no ditches to it, okay? And you're going to start getting mud drug in here, and then the trucks are going to be coming out. And if you can scroll down there a little bit, I don't know if you can. It's a real tight corner. It's not a T intersection. It's kind of sitting here a little bit like this. And you're going to be twisting and turning the tandems if it comes in a straight truck. I think you're going to do a little damage to the road. And then the trailers, if they come in with some double axle goosenecks or something like this, you know, why then they're going to be on the neighbor's lawn. That ain't really right. I've got enough of that going on already. And yeah, I should have really had a little swig of coffee before I started this. But anyways, I just think that that's all going to get changed when trucks come in here and they don't know the roads. Things are going to start happening. We're going to get mud in the road. The reason you can't do it in the springtime is the roads are soft. And if that's the way he's going to come in, I don't think they're going to be going out that way. You know, you start rutting up the road, they're going to find another way in. As far as the seed corn, if you're 2 bags of seed corn short, I don't know you and I don't mean anything to you, but you usually leave them in a pickup. I was born and raised on a farm. If the corn planter runs out of seed, you get that seed to the corn planter. That's about all I got. And as far as your roof, when you got water landing on a tin roof or an asphalt roof, it comes fast. It comes right now and it all goes to one spot, down the downspout. It's not like it's landing on the ground evenly. Okay, so now that's where you get the water gushing. So that's about it. I got nothing else.
Anyone else? Mr. Driscoll, why don't you come back up?
So I want to provide a little clarity here because we've got some things that are being assumed and projected upon what's going on. One person talked about the fact that there was vehicles parked on the road out in front of my place. That particular incident at 7:30 in the morning was Christian Hammond's car, a friend of my son's. They had went out for the night. We have a very strong policy about not drinking and driving. So my son gave him a ride home, and his car ended up having to stay on the road because he took the keys with him. Okay? We tell all of our visitors, because I have a large amount of concrete, that they need to park up in the driveway. But if they park there and I don't catch them and they take off, I'm at the liberty of when they get back. And I apologize for that, and we are trying to stay on top of it. The fact of the commercial business, I've already talked about the fact that this is not a commercial business. This is supporting a business in Minnesota. It's an administrative building. The traffic that they talk about that is going to increase is not going to increase because the individuals that are going to come there during the day are the individuals that already come there all the time. They are my family. We are a very close-knit family. We spend time together all the time. Okay? So it's just it's not going to change a thing. They're talking about the heavy trucks that go in and out. I'm going to state to you that is not going to be the case. They talk about this gooseneck trailer. We own a gooseneck trailer. Okay? So whether the building goes up or the permit happens or not, if we have a need to haul something on a gooseneck trailer, it would happen in that case anyway. Anybody that has that. We have an individual down the road that has a semi parked in the development. Okay? I also want to talk about the wear and tear on the road and the kids around. There is a active, large farming operation going on within 200 feet of this on the north side, even closer than that, 66 feet from my property line. They are farming with large equipment. I'm not talking small. I'm talking semi after semi after semi. Large 1,000, 1,200 bushel grain carts, combines. Okay, there's no complaints about the neighborhood for the farmer. If that was the case, you guys would have heard about this before. I'm not going to do any of that. I'll guarantee it. I'll be open to inspection whenever you want. They're talking about chemicals. I can be checked anytime you want. There's not going to be chemicals stored in the building. In addition to that, there's no covenants that exist for ours. The covenants that exist are for the Iverson Crossing development. The difference is Iverson Crossing Road. Iverson Crossing, we're in the Iverson Crossing second edition. There's no covenants that pertain to that have been detailed to us when we purchased it or at this point in our discovery. Talking about the chemicals, like I said, we're not going to use or store chemicals. But if you look on the map, there is a farming operation that uses responsible application of chemicals. He also, if you were to look to the northwest, he has land that resides right along the river. Okay? So them playing and talking about the fact that my operation is going to hurt the environment, hurt the kids, the water table, that is not the case at all. I don't know how they're saying that, but they're projecting something that is not true. All I'm looking to do is to put up a building that can provide administrative assistance to the farming operation that resides in Minnesota. Are there any additional questions for me?
I have one, Brent.
Yes.
Would you be okay if we, on our recommendations, because I think people are kind of worried that you might be taking Tucker Drive, would it be a problem if we stated that you must use Iverson Crossing Road?
For all my personal travel too?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to buy a membership to a car wash, but I guess if that's a restriction, I'm kind of, if you saw what
Well, I'm basically meaning like your gooseneck trailers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But like just like your car,
Yes.
your personal car that you use every day. But I'm more concerned about stuff that is happening with the proposed building,
Right.
that if anything that uses that, if they would use Iverson Crossing Road.
Absolutely. I will absolutely mandate that if
I
if
think
you
that
guys
would-
deem that
I
a
think that
requirement.
would alleviate a lot of problems, because I drive that road.
Yep.
I just check it out every once in a while. And I don't see too many, once in a while, I'll see people on that road, but not very often.
I live on that road, so can I speak to that?
Ma'am, you cannot get up right now until he's done.
So that's my biggest concern, if you
Right, yeah,
could just use
any-
Iverson Crossing
Yeah,
Road.
absolutely. Anything that would utilize, that's the thing with this, is that if anything came in and out of there, it would be like for printer paper, or it's gonna come UPS through Amazon, or, you know what I mean? And it's normal delivery for that. I mean, I can even restrict it to where we will not use a gooseneck trailer. Anything that goes in and out of there is only in a pickup. I'm willing to do that. Any additional questions for me?
On the
Madam
city
Chair.
side? Go ahead.
Mr. Driscoll, it was said in testimony earlier that, and they're absolutely right, everything you're telling us is different than what's in the staff report. We'll leave out the present zoning. City uses templates. They get overwritten with the wrong zoning from time to time.
Right.
So the fact this is A1 ag, not recreational conservative, we'll get past that. But in the write-ups, it talks about your not testimony, but when you inform staff of your intentions, you're gonna be selling seed and seed products. You're gonna be using typical delivery services. You're gonna be using vehicles up to a gooseneck trailer, delivery vehicles of whatever prevalent in the community, but you've been telling us exactly, no, this is just gonna be boardroom and telephone lines and
Right,
a
so-
network server.
I'm sorry.
So, what are we talking about here?
Right, so, I don't wanna, say anything without having Kevin come up and clarify, but the example that I gave him, and it ended up getting put in as selling seed, is actually what I explained. You know, a couple bags of seed that would come back, and I don't wanna haul it all the way to the farm. There is not going to be any seed sales ever out of that building. Ever.
It's not a commercial operation of any kind.
Correct.
Question, I mean, call me silly, but rural residential ag, we've seen conditional uses for 3,400 square foot toy shacks left and right. Why did business get brought into why did any mention of a commercial anything get brought into this thing?
Yeah, and maybe you guys can provide some clarity, but when I stated that what we wanted to do is do some of the business administrative out of this building, does that automatically imply that it is a commercial establishment? Because I didn't say it was gonna be commercial. So someone or something must have happened that it got dictated that way.
Including your neighbors, apparently. They're extremely concerned.
Right, well,
And what we're talking about tonight does not match the report. That is true, so.
hopefully I've given clarification. I'll swear under affidavit to everything that I've testified that I will be bound by it, and it is accurate in full detail. I'm trying to be transparent about this in all ways possible, because we are part of a community. But I do not feel, as I've described, that this is gonna be detrimental to anybody.
Madam Chair?
Jeff?
You know, a lot of times when we aren't communicating, then we have fear of things. And I think the fact that you talk to like 1.5 people probably isn't enough. And, clearly, it appears that there's some communication gaps here that Kurt was pointing out. But I think that maybe we need to go back to the drawing board a little bit on this and rewrite our staff report even. But I also think that you need to talk to all of your neighbors, and if it gets warm enough, maybe you could have a pool party nearby. No swimming in the river, okay? Anyway, this happens all the time where people do not communicate. And I've even had brothers on planning and zoning issues where the brother never knew about it until it got posted, you know, a sign out there. And anyway, I just want to throw that comment out there, I guess. But fear of the unknown is a very common problem.
One thing I would like to put out there is I would like not to delay this any more than possible, just due to the fact that I have come in and been transparent. There's a large number of the community members here that they now know everything that I intend to do with it. So if there is a clerical adjustment that needs to be made to the paperwork, I'd like that to be made in conjunction with the proceeding going forward, instead of starting the process over and looking 2 months down the road before I can come back in front of you guys.
Any other questions for him?
I don't have a question for the applicant, but I do have a question for staff when they have a moment.
Kevin, you want to come up again, please?
Just real quick, Kevin, the other testimony made comment to a 1,200 square foot limitation. So my question is it safe to assume what's north of Iverson Crossing Road is ag zoning, the AG or the A1 ag, as you mentioned? And as we get down in the neighborhoods of Tucker Drive and Portage Street, that's not the case. They're zoned something different.
Testing my memory here. I believe so. I don't know that.
I just want to understand, because we're talking ag, you know, out in the country farms, you certainly got to go above 1,200 feet as a course of business.
Sure.
So that leads me to believe, just again to try to clarify that in my head, some of the loftier aspirations for big garages south of that are hampered by rural residential or some other zoning
Sure.
situation.
Oh, I can say that south of this Iverson Crossing Road is part of a planned development that was done a while ago. North of this, if my recollection is correct, is building eligibilities in existing lots. So whether it was rezoned or if it's ag, that's kind of the setup of how it was. It is.
Just want to make sure that it was clear to
Yep.
everyone here, we're not talking apples to apples when it comes to the lot types.
Sure.
And the zone.
And the other thing about 1,200 square feet is, I don't know, it was about 2 years ago, the ordinance was changed as to accessory building sizes as well. As this property is now, he could get a building permit for up to 2,400 square feet of total accessory building. I think we calculated in the office earlier that it ends up being about 1,500 square feet now if you wanted to get a building permit for that. So.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for indulging.
Any other
that.
questions? You want to come forward, please?
Albert Schmidt, Planning and Development Services. One thing to add in real quick, just so you know, a few years ago when we adjusted our joint jurisdiction boundaries, this area was brought into the joint jurisdiction. So previously this wouldn't have came to the joint board, and now it does. So, thank you.
Anyone else care to speak? Board, state your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Deanna McKnight. I live at 48076 Iverson Crossing. And this has to do with the road. Okay, you keep saying, well, if they don't use Tucker Drive and use Iverson Crossing Road, that's the road that's bad, is Iverson Crossing. That's the one that has the potholes and is gravel and stuff like that. And you ask Mrs. Hazlitt if she uses it. I use it 90% of the time because I live right on the gravel road, as do, I'm sure, James McKinney or other people that live there too. And because I go to Brandon, that's where I go to work, I come home that way. So if you put even, you know, I know it's under dispute whether he's going to use big trucks or not. It shouldn't matter what road he's using. You shouldn't put a stipulation on what road he's using. And the speed limit there is 25 miles an hour. And a lot of people in the neighborhood, I don't know if they're their friends or who, don't do that 25 mile an hour speed limit with the children out running around and stuff. So that is a concern. But yeah, the road shouldn't matter which road he uses. That shouldn't come into what's there. And we're talking about the farm equipment that's going on there. That's, you know, a short period of time of the year that's on there. They use a lot of the entrance off of Highway 11 instead coming in that part than they do there. And that farm, whether who owned it then or back when Iverson's owned it, it's been there, you know, hundreds of years. So, you know, why go back that far and say now they can't use it or can't have equipment driving on it? But the road should not be an issue. It shouldn't matter which road he uses. That's all.
Anyone else care to address this issue? Then I'm gonna close the floor. Okay.
I live directly to the south of him. My name is Jeremy Mulder.
Your address, please?
26601 Tucker Drive. I don't have much to add. Everybody's pretty much said everything that needs to be said. I just wondered if everybody could stand up that was just opposed to it, just so you guys could see how many of us really do not want this. That's all I have.
Okay, you can be seated. I'm gonna close the floor. Commissioners?
Madam Chair,
Mike?
you know, thinking about a lot of the comments that was presented here tonight, and not to reiterate too what Jeff's already stated, but I think there's a lot of concern here, obviously from the neighbors. Again, from what's in the staff report may or may not have been communicated, interpolated, whatever you want to say, versus what was stated tonight. I can definitely understand all the concerns the neighbors have with use in their community. And well, that being said too, I feel like, being on this panel, we're in charged with making a decision based on the evidence, and quite frankly, I guess I'm not comfortable with everything that's presented as concrete fact. So I know you're against, or the applicant's against a deferral. My thought is to indeed defer for a month and get the actual information in writing, and then also recommend that he has a neighborhood meeting to address some of the concerns, maybe come up with a concerted direction with some of the neighbors, but that's what I'm thinking at this point.
Is that a motion?
That'll be my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. A motion has been made and seconded to defer this item for a month. All those in favor on the county side?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
City side?
I was gonna say something first. They've already voted, but mine is putting a commercial business. Again, we've done a lot of buildings with no commercial building. As Mr. Johnson stated, we've gone above and beyond the 1,200 to the 2,400 square feet, but we always had that stipulation is no commercial business, because I do think that you're gonna set a precedent. We've now got commercial business here, okay? 1,200 square feet were denied to a couple of other people already. Third is, how many people, that gentleman with the excavating business, now he wants to start a business in his backyard. See how I just think we're gonna set a precedent in a residential neighborhood that is not good by allowing a business there. A little bigger shed, I have no problem with that. I like my toys and things like that too, but to have a business, and maybe the deferral will get this all straightened out. But I think if we allow a business in the residential neighborhood, we're setting a precedent for the rest of the neighborhood.
Madam Chair?
Okay. Jeff?
I have to say I agree with Steve, and, it is potentially a opening to cause other problems for us. And I certainly, I drove out there today, and pouring rain, I saw kids on the street, checking the mail, I guess, but I think I scared them. But anyway, the road is horrible. Clearly, the kids are out there, and, you know, in a month, it doesn't mean we would agree to this. At the same time, some of the stuff which is just fear could maybe be abated if we had more communication, because there is fear based on incomplete information.
Looking for a motion on the city side?
Motion to defer the conditional use until the next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries to defer.
We'll move on. Under the old business, there is none, and there is no new business. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
On the count.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I may come back to that meeting. Because if it's next month, I will still be on the board for the month.